When I was a kid scrolling through Steam back in 2016, I ended up coming across the page of a game I thought looked and sounded fascinating called Skybreak. An open-world survival craft with creature collection aspects, all things that I adored and things that instantly triggered excitement hearing in conjunction. I immediately bought the game and paired it with Oh Sir, the Insult Simulator for reasons I can no longer remember. Though, like hundreds of games after it, Skybreak ended up becoming one of my backlogged purchases, given a few hours of playtime and never any more. Admittedly, like many other games, I would occasionally remember its existence, playing it for a short while before immediately closing and forgetting about it again. Not a problem on the game's end. Apathy and lack of retention like that are a common struggle for me with a lot of games. In fact, from the little I remember, the game was extremely enjoyable, which is why it shocked me to search the page and find that it was removed with mixed reviews. The game has apparently been down for a while, as of April 2022. It was taken off the Steam store along with the other games by the studio, though unlike Skybreak, the other games are free to download on their website. And based on my current recollection, that's honestly a shame. But rather than let nostalgia and vague childhood memories make this judgment for me, I decided I should take some time to fully play through the game and see if it's as enjoyable as I remember, or if people might have been onto something I wasn't deep enough into the game to realize. Starting off, the game is less than 2 gigabytes, so either this is extremely well optimized or extremely tiny. On Googling, the game's average playtime, I was told, is roughly 9.5 hours in length, so I guess we'll see. The game immediately gives you a backstory of what you're doing and what your mission is, which is really simple. Go to this planet, find a cure for a deadly virus. The machines on the planet have turned against the people, and you need to survive while trying to develop the cure. After crash landing, you repair your drone with a really simple hacking minigame, and it allows you to detect nearby landmarks to explore. After this, you find a base in the sky which docks near where you crashed, and it becomes the main hub of the game. There's a room to dock the ship you get later on, a map room, a greenhouse, a character upgrader that takes chips you collect from windmills, and a place to keep any mechs you hack. Up to a max of 4 slots, but you start with just 1. To get more, you need to mine crystals, which is a bit later on in the game. There's also a healing room with a really cool animation, but ironically, you don't even need to stand in it to heal. When you can't call for help, you go back down and try to repair the ship, but it's beyond salvage, and you need to find another way to leave the planet. This is also where my first real issue with the game comes up. This game doesn't pause during cutscenes, and you can still be attacked, allowing enemies to kill you when you're stuck in dialogue. This can be avoided by killing everything nearby before starting a cutscene, but it's a bit inconvenient. Combat overall in this game isn't bad though, it's really enjoyable, and if you feel like enemies are too tough, you can sprint between bushes and avoid drawing their attention, giving a really simple stealth mechanic. After you take down your first mech is where the creature collector aspect comes into play. Once you take down one of the machines, you have the option to hack it, making it follow you around and assist in combat. You can either have your machines defend you, command them to attack specific targets, or attack faster. Or you can pull out your gun and fight alongside them. This is a mechanic I really enjoy and personally wish a lot more creature collectors did. Most of the time you're either controlling the creature directly or initiating a turn-based fight. Having the creatures you bring be entirely independent of the player is a great choice in my personal opinion. And having the option to command them and make them attack more frequently is a great decision that allows you to vary up your playstyle. The fact that they can be killed if you aren't careful also adds a good level of risk to each encounter, and the game helps make being a support for your mechs a viable option by giving you the ability to heal and shield them from a range using special ammo. At the starting area, I immediately found an owl mech and made it my first tame. a machine that I often default to as I realize it's too high above the ground for most short-ranged enemies to hit early on in the game. I'm not sure if you can rename the mechs, so his name is Bird 1. Through the story, you harvest plants to increase your cure gauge, researching the medicinal herbs and unlocking new crafting recipes as you gather crafting materials. While this mechanic could be refined, I personally enjoy it a lot. It adds a level of importance to what is essentially farming and crafting items so you can farm and craft more items. Once you're done exploring the first area, you find a beacon tower, a place you'll need to locate and activate on each island to unlock the next one. Once activated though, you're given a timer, and during startup, the tower emits a signal that attracts all nearby enemies to your area. You need to fight them off and make sure the tower reaches the end of its cooldown. If you leave the area, then your drone stops the countdown and you have to start over. Moving between islands is where my second issue with the game arises. The travel time between them is really long. Even if you have a lot of things you need to do around the base, you'll likely be done with it all by the time you've docked. And you can't save or lower down while it's moving, which makes sense, but is still annoying when you have nothing else to do and are waiting to dock. I can see it being really enjoyable for some people, but I personally can get really impatient, so it's one of the features that just doesn't click with me. The next area of the game isn't too much of a change, but when you scan, you find there's a lot more to do here. The game turns semi-open world with a lot more places to explore. The main things, though, are a damaged ship and another beacon tower. The damaged ship isn't as broken up as your own, but needs repair before it can fly again. And the parts you need are more complicated than the typical salvage you get from killing mechs. This is where the first boss encounter takes place. There's some larger mechs around the game that are much more complex and a lot harder to take down than the smaller animal-like ones, and are required to kill in order to get the proper salvage for the ship. Since they act as the boss mechs for this game, I've taken to calling them big mechs, because I'm so creative and funny. They have a lot more shield than the smaller ones, shoot rockets at the player, zap the player for getting too close, and can dispense repair drones. They're a really challenging encounter early game, and it makes this part relatively difficult. One thing I do have to say though is that the game's challenges all feel really balanced. There's never a moment when I feel like something is really unfair. Once you've taken down the mech and repaired the ship, you can fly around and start collecting oil deposits scattered around the map that increase its energy supply, allowing it to fly longer. With how much bigger this place is than the first island, this is also the point when the storm starts to become an issue. There's a constant storm around the world that builds the longer you stay out in it. At first it does nothing, but spending time out in it causes the storm gauge to fill up, and at level 1, lightning starts striking and tornadoes appear around the map. Your mechs also lose a bar of their shield, but the rest of the ones around the world do too, including the big mechs, making this something that can be used strategically. At level 2, the storm picks up. Lightning becomes a hazard, your map loses signal, and all mechs lose another bar of shield. And at level 3, the storm knows your location. The storm is approaching rapidly. The storm would like to reach you about your ship's extended warranty. Also, all mechs lose more shield, and most have none at all. The only way to reset the storm gauge is to find an ionizer and craft a battery for it, or alternatively, find a dock that has a built-in ionizer that activates as soon as you're in range. Beyond this, you just activate the beacon and head to the third island. This is the point where the islands start to take a drastic change. This area is a large and foggy desert that's a lot harder to see in, and the mechs around here are very different from the ones before. One interesting thing I noticed about the scorpion ones is that they shoot a laser from their tail, and when you shield break them, they lift their tail in the air. But the laser stays active for the rest of its duration, with a fully mapped hitbox, allowing it to injure Bird 1 if hit at the wrong time. Around the area, there's a few ship upgrades you can get, with a circle on the map telling you the general vicinity that they can be found. Collecting all 3 upgrades and maxing out your ship's energy allows you to leave the planet and beat the game. I didn't realize what was being indicated for a bit though, so I ended up coming back here after getting through the 3rd island and finding the final upgrade first. These upgrades, the desert atmosphere, and the new and more challenging mechs make this island feel a bit more interesting than the one before, and makes it a really great progression milestone. It's also the best place to find birds if you want to go for meta. Out of all the islands, the 4th and final one understandably has the most going for it. The area is a winter wonderland full of reindeer mechs and hulking beasts that can pose a massive threat to you, and large ice lakes that you can parkour over with the risk of instant death if you fall in. The parkour isn't the most fluid and can be really finicky, but is mostly just a shortcut anyway and can be entirely avoided if you choose. Another detail I really like with this area is that the player model has snow on their armor as they go through, which wasn't needed and makes me appreciate more that it's there. There is a small bug that the snow appears at other places when zoomed in, but it's a non-issue. On the topic of regional editions, this island also has a really nice soundtrack it's paired with that more emphasizes that winter wonderland feeling. In this area, there's no more finding a beacon and leaving the island. All that's here is the final upgrade, one that lets the ship land in the storm. I got this one first, which made finding the other 2 much easier, and kinda made them redundant. I did manage to get another mech slot here though, and went to try and hack one of the big mechs. I guess that's fair. So you can't hack the bosses in this game. I ended up just going back to the desert instead and got a second bird. Everyone welcome bird 2. At the end, it says you can just leave. I haven't tried just going on my playthrough though, and I wonder if there's alternate endings. I might replay in the future and find out. If you stay to 100% the game, the majority of it is running around collecting plants to develop the cure and spamming performance enhancers so that you can keep running. It's a bit of a marathon and can be a bit tedious, but it doesn't take more than an hour or so, and I feel like this marathon feeling is intentional since the very last upgrade you get is even an upgrade to the stamina enhancer. I feel like they didn't do a bad job with this final portion of the game, giving you all the tools you need to make it as convenient as possible. My only struggle was never paying attention to the storm, making massive jumps in progress only to die to my own hubris. Once I was done, I went back to the base to say goodbye to everything I'd built up so far. I gave Bird 1 and Bird 2 my final upgrade fragments and got ready to head out. After finishing, you fly to the edge of the atmosphere and choose the option to leave, and the final cutscene plays. I don't know the full story of this studio. I didn't come here to talk about them overall. I came to talk about this game, but now I'm wondering what happened here. This game was a thoroughly enjoyable experience, and I only left it wishing I could get a sequel. If it ever goes back up, I would highly recommend it. I'm not even sure what more I can say. This game has some rough edges, but it has so much charm, and I can't say that there was a moment I wasn't enjoying the experience. So I guess that's what I'll leave this off as. This was a charming game, and I adored every moment. That's all for now.